it's Sammy from Books and Messy Buns, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am really excited and slightly daunted because I am doing a cumulative book haul. This is probably, I want to say May through today. Today's August 8th, so quite a few months worth of book buying here. I don't even know where to start. This is not in any particular order. I'm just going to pick up the first thing I see and attempt to talk about it in some way. I probably don't even know that much about half of these, so it's okay. Well, we'll figure it out as we go. But anyway, let's jump right into it. The first book that I have here is massive, and it's Priory of the Orange Tree. I've already talked about a lot of these books here, so you've probably already seen several of these mentioned in previous videos, but I haven't officially hauled them, so I'm hauling them now. And that includes this book. This is widely known on BookTube. This is an epic fantasy. It's very, very, very large, and it is about dragons, and I think it's a female-female romance if I'm not mistaken, and that's really all I know about this. I've heard amazing things about this. I do love Samantha Shannon's writing, so I'm very excited to get into this one. The next one I have is kind of along the same thread, and that's The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. I have already read this book before. I used to own a copy of this, and I think it got lost in one of my several moves, so I decided to pick up another copy, and I actually love this cover way more than the one that I had previously. This centers around a world where being clairvoyant is illegal, and Paige Mahoney, the protagonist, is clairvoyant, and she's part of this like underground gang of clairvoyants, but one day she gets caught and is taken to this like camp of like magical creatures, and is kind of almost enslaved as a clairvoyant. I don't know. It gets kind of weird from there. I do want to reread this, and that's kind of what made me pick it up again and get a copy, because I want to reread The Bone Season and The Mime Order, which is book 2, and then finally get to The Song Raising, which is book 3, which I have not read yet. So yeah, that's my plan for right now. Alright, the next one I have is Conversations with Friends by Sally Rooney. I read Normal People by Sally Rooney and really enjoyed it. I know it gets a lot of mixed reviews, and I happen to be on the side that did really like it, so I wanted to pick up Conversations with Friends and see if I enjoyed this one as well. This one, it's kind of really convoluted, the synopsis of this, but I'll try to explain it well. So it's about this young woman named Frances who goes with her best friend to this poetry reading, and they meet this photographer and become friends with her, and she kind of lives this like lavish lifestyle, and they kind of get swept up in it, and Frances is kind of like reluctantly like enamored by her lifestyle, and then she is also kind of reluctantly enamored by the photographer's husband, and they build this like flirtationship that turns into something a little bit more, and it just seems really interesting. The next one I got yesterday, and I'm very excited about this one. So I got Misery by Stephen King, and I'm very excited about this one because I have attempted to read 2 other Stephen King books, and I have failed to read those 2 Stephen King books. But I've heard through the grapevine of BookTube that Misery is a great place to start when it comes to Stephen King, and I was very stoked when I found this at a Goodwill bookstore because I have been wanting to pick this one up. This is about, from what I hear, it's about this famous writer who is pretty much kidnapped by one of his biggest fans, and she like is trying to get him to write another book, I think. So it sounds so creepy and I'm here for it. The next book I have in this big pile is The Girl He Used to Know, and this is by Tracy Garvis Graves, and I have already talked about this several times. I love this book so much. This book is about a young woman named Annika Rose who suffers from severe social anxiety, and she is at university. She doesn't really like to spend time with other people. She kind of prefers to be on her own and doing things that she likes, which includes spending time in the library and playing chess with Chess Club. And she ends up meeting Jonathan at Chess Club, and they end up falling in love with each other, and it is very cute. And then it also takes place 10 years later, after they had parted ways, and then they meet up again, and it's then like getting to know each other again and figuring out what happened all those years ago, and I loved this book so much. The next book I have here is On Mystic Lake by Kristin Hannah. I DNF'd this book already. I'm very sad about it. I wanted to pick up a Kristin Hannah book. I have never read Kristin Hannah. This was the first one that I tried. I got, let's see, how far did I get? About 150 pages in, and I was not enjoying myself at all. This book revolves around a woman. Her name is Annie Coldwater, and she, you know, is like this perfect mom. Her daughter is going off to college, and her husband breaks the news to her that he wants a divorce and that he's been having an affair, and her world's just kind of thrown upside down, and so she ends up going back to her hometown. She goes back to Mystic Lake, her hometown, and she ends up running into someone from her past named Nick, and he's going through his own grief. He lost his wife, and he's trying to raise a kid, and he is also dealing with his own demons, and I don't know, it was like every time I picked this up to read it, it left a bitter taste in my mouth, and I was not enjoying it at all, and so I ended up DNFing it. I don't know if I will end up picking this back up. I have another disappointing read that I read. But Then She Was Gone by Lisa Jewell was another one that I picked up, and I read this one last month, and I also didn't like this book, but I did get through the whole thing. I did not DNF this one. I got through the whole thing. I just really didn't like it that much. This book is about a woman named Laurel Mack, whose daughter Ellie went missing when she was in high school. She was just about to complete her GCSEs, and she ended up disappearing. And 10 years later, she is still kind of dealing with her grief. It has never really moved past her daughter's disappearance, and she's finally ready to kind of take steps to move on, and she ends up starting dating this guy named Floyd, and he has a daughter, a young daughter named Poppy, who looks eerily similar to Ellie, and secrets start, you know, coming out, and weird things start happening. In my opinion, secrets are revealed way too early. The next book I have here was my May Book of the Month box book, and that was The Knockout Queen by Rufi Thorpe, and I have not read this yet. Shocker. And I don't know really what this is about, so yeah. I do know that this is about a girl who kind of is like the it girl, and she ends up striking up a friendship with a boy. I think he's gay, and they become friends and strike up a friendship, and I think there's like a darker side to this. I don't really know anything about this. Does it show? Probably. Let's see, the next book I have here is Vicious by V.E. Schwab. I am very excited about this one because I have, never read anything by V.E. Schwab, and I also didn't know what this book was about ever when people talked about it. And I read the synopsis for this book when I was like just browsing on Amazon, and I instantly put it in my cart because it sounds so cool. So it's about these two friends, and they're doing this research project about near-death experiences, and they start to realize that their research project is like these near-death experiences are bringing on these like extraordinary gifts or like these extraordinary powers, which sounds so cool. But then I think it starts getting a little competitive, and there's like this sort of rivalry that starts to brew up between the two, and I just think that sounds really interesting. The next one I have is another super hyped book that I have not read yet, and it's Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. I have read Leigh Bardugo before. I read the first 2 books in the Grisha trilogy. I can't say that. Wow. I read the first 2 books in the Grisha trilogy, and I was not impressed. I did not like it as much as everyone else loved the Grisha trilogy. I just found it very boring, so I ended up not picking up the last book, but I'm hoping that I'll get that feeling with Six of Crows. I know very little about this. I know that it's about this like a ragtag group of friends who are like planning a heist, and that's really all I know. I also know that this is being turned into a Netflix series, which is exciting. But that's about it. And while I'm at it, I should probably mention that I also hauled Crooked Kingdom because I found it at Goodwill yesterday, and that was super exciting. So it's a duology, so I got the first one and the second one. I don't even know if I like it yet, but we're gonna try. The next 3 books that I got are Truth Witch, Wind Witch, and Blood Witch by Susan Dennard. I have read Truth Witch already, but I'm going to reread it because I kind of forgot everything that I read in it. And this is a fantasy series. I don't really remember very much about it, which is why I'm going to reread it. I am in a very big fantasy mood right now and want to read more fantasy. And I do know that I did enjoy this when I read it at the time, so the fact that I know that I like this like gives me some encouragement to pick it up, you know what I mean? I'm excited to read these because I am just I need fantasy right now, and I don't know where to start. I don't know what fantasy to read, so I'm desperate for recommendations. Let me know. With that, I also picked up an ARC copy of Iron Gold. This was randomly at my Goodwill, so I just grabbed it because it was $1, so it was like, why not? I should probably reread Red Rising, although I still remember a lot that happened in that book, which was amazing, phenomenal. If you've not read Red Rising, read it. But I do need to read Golden Sun, which it got lost in a move, so I need to find that and get it. So I need to get on that. While we're talking about fantasy, I have to show you Kingdom of Ash. I am so excited for this book. I just finished my reread of Empire of Storms last night. I cried. I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. I am not okay. Oh, give me a second. I will collect myself. Okay, I know, I totally understand that, you know, Sarah J. Maas gets some flack for her writing and some of the elements in her writing, but I'm here to tell you, her writing, while there are some elements that you might find problematic, the detail and like the fullness of her worlds is insane, and the character development is insane. The interpersonal relationships, insane. Like, I cannot even begin to express. And I have been texting my sisters, especially my older sister. My little sister is kind of a lost cause. She will never, ever, 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 probably ever, sorry, Mad, but you will probably never, ever pick up a fantasy book in your life. But I'm like, I texted my older sister, I'm like, I wish like to the highest heavens that you liked fantasy as much as I do, because I need someone to empathize with me. Like, I need someone to talk to because I cannot deal. Like, can you tell? I need to do a book talk. I'm going to do a book talk. This is not the time, but I will do one. But I just finished Empire Storms last night. I'm still not okay. You can tell. It's showing. I'm in the middle of reading Tower of Dawn. Once I read Tower of Dawn, I'm picking this up right away. I need to know what happens. This is the finale of Throne of Glass, and I need to know what happens. I need to know. The next book I have is, I almost said Crescent City. It is not called Crescent City. It is called House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. And this is an urban fantasy book. Everyone says this is amazing. I believe them, and I'm going to read it. That'll probably be right after I finish Kingdom of Ash. Sarah J. Maas is probably the closest thing to heroine that I will ever do. The next book that I have here is The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This book is a thriller. It is about this man who meets a woman in an airport, and they're drinking martinis together. They get kind of tipsy, and he tells her how he's so unhappy and his wife betrayed him, and then all of a sudden he tells her that he wants to kill his wife, and it's about them plotting to kill people for each other. So, sign me up. It sounds like a Forensic Files episode in a book. The next book I have here is The Unexpected Everything by Morgan Matson, which is a very old book. This is a contemporary. Morgan Matson's kind of the queen of contemporary, and I was at Goodwill yesterday. I found this and I was like, oh, that would kind of be kind of a fun read. I've been in the mood just for stuff that would kind of put me in a good mood. I don't really know what this is about. Oh, this is the one about the politician's daughter, and I think something like there's like some scandal that happens, and she ends up having to be like a dog walker for the summer or something. So I don't know. Usually Morgan Matson's books are very, very cute. So then I have The Beach Read by Emily Henry. This book I chose as an add-on for one of my Book of the Month boxes, and I still have not read it, but I am hoping to at some point. Of course, now that like I'm out of a reading slump, I'm very much in a fantasy mood, so I'm not really in the mood to read this at the present moment, but that's okay. It'll get read at some point because I do really want to read this. It's about these two people. Augustus and January are both staying at some beach house, like an Airbnb thing, I think. And they're both writers of two very different genres, and they challenge each other to write in each other's genres. That's really all I know about it. So the next book that I have here is Today Will Be Different by Maria Semple. I definitely wanted to read this. This kind of, I feel like, has a lot to do with anxiety and perfectionism and control. It's about this woman named Eleanor who kind of has this perfect life, like tries to keep everything at a comfortable level for herself. She's a wife to a very renowned surgeon, but then like one day she finds out that everything is not as it seems. Like a lot of things, her husband has pretty much been skipping out on work, and other things seem to be going wrong, and family secrets seem to be coming out, and so she's like losing control of things around her. So it just seems like something that would be very real but very uplifting at the same time. The next book I have here is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. I just read this book last month and just talked about it in my wrap-up. This book was phenomenal. I was expecting it to be phenomenal. It is a creepy horror thriller mystery all-in-one combo. It's about a girl named Maggie who, when she was 5, she lived in this house called Bainbury Hall with her two parents, and they only lived there for 20 days until the weird things that were happening in the house kind of drove them out. And 25 years later, she is going back to Baneberry Hall because her father has passed away and she has inherited the house and she's getting it ready to sell. And she also wants to find out what really happened the day that they left. I loved every second of it. I devoured this book in maybe 3 days time. The next book I have here is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. Again, loved this book. This book is amazing, and I also talked about this in my July wrap-up because I read it last month as well. It's set between like a 15-year time range, and it follows this girl named Kaya whose family kind of abandoned her, and she grew up and raised herself in the marsh, and she's known by the town as the Marsh Girl, and she's kind of ostracized and seen as kind of different because she is different, and she had such a different childhood and upbringing than the others. So then when she's older, like years later, a body is found, and it's a body of someone who is well known in the town, and Kaya, as the Marsh Girl, is instantly brought into question. It is so good. The next book I have here is Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. This book is very well known, kind of in a controversy right now. I've seen a lot of stuff going on book Twitter and on Bookstagram for this book, which I can kind of see. I'm not gonna sit here and have an opinion because I have not actually read this book. I DNF'd it kind of fairly early. I got very bored. I could not get into this book. I was very excited to read this because I thought that it was going to be phenomenal, and I just had a really hard time. It's almost like stream of consciousness, but it also jumps timelines. It was very hard for me to get into, and I don't know if I'm gonna end up picking it up again. Maybe. I don't know. The next book I have is Exit West, and this is by Mohsin Hamid. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And this one is, I think, a little bit of magical realism. It's about these two young people who meet on the brink of a civil war. There are rumors, that's the word I was looking for. There are rumors about these doors that can whisk people away to other places, and it's about them like trying to find these doors and trying to find a better place, and it sounds very good, and it sounds very literary, it sounds very poignant, and I want to read it. The next book I have here is The Luminaries by Eleanor Catton. I don't know anything about this. It's about gold mining in New Zealand, and that's all I know. The other one I have is The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. Colson Whitehead has won a lot of literary prizes. This one won the Pulitzer, and I do want to read it at some point. I did start it, but I was not in the mood for it at the time that I started it, so I ended up not really getting very far before I put it down to pick something else up. But it does revolve around the Underground Railroad, and that's really all I know about it so far. I'm kind of going into it blind and seeing where I end up. The next one I have is Pieces of Her, and this is by Karen Slaughter. This one is about a girl whose mother, so she thinks she knows everything about her mother, but then one day they're at the mall and it says some act of violence like kind of shatters her image of her mom and kind of makes her question everything she knows about her mother. So sign me up. The next one I have is another Booker Prize winner, and that's Milkman, and this is by Anna Burns. This one is about a girl who is not named, and she also lives in an unnamed city. She is middle sister, and she stands out for the wrong reasons, it says. And she's been taking French night classes downtown. She meets a local paramilitary named Milkman who begins pursuing her, and so she meets Milkman and they end up having this like relationship, and she doesn't want her mother to find out, and there's some sort of like violence in this book. I don't know. This seems very dark, but I don't know how yet. The next one I have is Starfish, and this is by Akemi Dawn Bowman. And I did read this one already. I read this one back in May. This was alright. I think I gave it 3 stars. It is about a girl named Kiko who is an artist, and she has a very kind of troubled upbringing. Her mother is very just awful, and she has divorced parents. She's half Japanese, half white. Her father, who is Japanese, does not live with her. She lives with her mother, and she's an artist. Her dream is to get into art school. It's a school called Prism. She ends up not getting in, and her abusive uncle ends up moving in to their house, and so it kind of spurs her to get out of the house, and she goes to California to go visit some art schools to try and see if she can apply there. And she goes with an old friend from her past who also might become something more. And it was very cute. I enjoyed it. It was alright. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, I believe. The next one I have is Girl, Woman, Other, which is another Booker Prize winner. And this is by Bernardine Evaristo. This follows 3 Black British women, I believe. That's really all I know about it, but I've heard so many great things about this book. Obviously, it won the Man Booker, so must be good. So the next one I have is Once Upon a Sunset. This is by Tiff Marcello. This is about a woman named Diana who is an OBGYN, and things at work force her to take a sabbatical, and during her time off she is helping her mother with some stuff because her Lola, her grandma, died. They're going through her stuff, and they find letters from Diana's grandfather, who she had never met. It's about her kind of digging into her family history. Diana ends up going to the Philippines to meet her long-lost family, and it is so good. I loved this book so much. The next 2 I have, I don't know a lot about, so I'm just gonna say them both at once, is The Greenlanders and Some Luck, and they're both by Jane Smiley. I know The Greenlanders is about women in Greenland, I believe, and that's all I know. This one is about a family in Iowa, and it's kind of set, it centers around this like one family during multiple years, I believe. This was my July Book of the Month book, and it is The Beauty in Breaking. She's an ER physician, but then she gets a job at a hospital in Philadelphia. Her husband says that he can't move with her, and she ends up starting this new life in a new city at a new job, and yeah, it's just about her kind of like starting over and being in this crazy environment. And then the last book I have for you guys, the last one, this has been like an hour of sitting here, is Wolf Hall by Hilary Mantel. This was also a Booker Prize winner, and it's about Thomas Cromwell, who is part of like Henry VIII's inner circle, and it just follows his life, and it is a daunting book because it's very historical, which is kind of scary for me. It's also very long, and it's part of a trilogy, I think, which is also scary, but it is also said to be very, 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 very good. So we're gonna try at some point. But anyway, that concludes this insane haul. It has been a long time coming. I've been putting it off for forever, and I finally did it. I will try to do this on a more regular basis so I don't have to sit here for forever and have my camera cut me off twice. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video and didn't get too bored sitting here. Let me know if you've read any of these books. and if you enjoyed them or didn't enjoy them, let me know. And as always, I will have my links down below that will take you to anywhere else you can find me on the internet, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.